Right, here's the thing with this story, and I don't want to be insensitive to the people who have obviously lost their jobs here, but to a degree, whenever stuff has completely went, off the rails, sometimes the fundamentals need to be rethought. Things need to change. And I think that is the ideal lead-in into today's discussion, which is Microsoft's new plans for the Halo franchise. And it's a funny thing. Halo, it was one of the biggest franchises in our entire industry, yet now it's withered to the point where I know that if we do a Halo video, this one included, unless I pull off some crazy thing and make the thumbnail uber clickable, they get no views. And I think that just shows it's got to the stage. It's not even that people are angry, it's just they're apathetic. They don't care anymore. And that is the most dangerous thing that can happen to a franchise. So let's get into things today. So Microsoft are saying things about the future of Halo. 343 staff are saying things to journalists about the future of Halo. And they both tell a similar but not identical story. Now, to do Microsoft's first, and then we'll get to the juicy bit, which is obviously what the staff are saying, Phil Spencer a while ago had said that they were happy with the product that they launched, but obviously recognizes that the ball was dropped with the follow-up content. He said they were happy with the current leadership under Pierre, and I think Pierre actually will get quite interesting as we go through things, especially with the changing of the tech stack. And essentially that's it. He said that they've got, there's things in the works, some other things, some rumored, some announced that they'll be working on, and he just doubled down by saying it is part of the foundation of what Xbox is about. Okay, so Microsoft, they're acknowledging it's not ideal, but they're recommitting to Halo, but not in a way that provides any specifics, which of course is what the worried Halo fan would want. They want specifics. I want specifics. And that's where we've got to go to the reporting. Of course, what happened is quite a few people got laid off from 343 Industries. And that does mean that a lot of people have talked to the press, specifically to Jason Schreier. He is framing this story as 343 all but starting from scratch, right? So they're kind of gutted, and now there's going to be a newish plan. Now, 96 people have lost their jobs from the studio. That's pretty damn large. Apparently, there is a spreadsheet of impacted employees that Bloomberg were able to review, and I presume verify because they did go to print with it. And this does include dozens of veterans, including top directors and contractors. Yeah, so a large part of the working arm of this studio is gone. But obviously, the question is going to be which part of this studio. And that is where things are just going to get more interesting. Now, for the people who are, of course, staff, well, they got their severance and everything. But you will remember the entire situation where 343 Industries, I think based on a older Microsoft policy, where they were really, really using contractors a lot on these 18-month contracts. It's been told to me that there was some sort of tax benefit from this, but regardless, for those people being contractors, they did not have the same, I suppose, severance or anything like that. They were basically just told a few days before renewal, by the way, we're not renewing. Bye. Which is pretty damn shit. It is a complete doubling down of one of the things that rotted this studio to the core. I mean, put yourself in the position of running a team, right? So you've got your team, you've got all your people, and maybe half of those people are contractors, and they are like almost top-level company mandated to move to something else in 18 months. So your team is forced to be a revolving door where knowledge is continually lost. I mean, could you even just imagine the amount of documentation and stuff that people would need to prepare just so that the next contractor to sit on their seat will be able to get up to speed? All of these stupid inefficiencies. Now, there's been many rumors going on as to what this has all meant. The most dramatic essentially were that 343 would be the steward of the IP, but really would not be handling active development. Now, Bloomberg sources relate that the head of Xbox Studios, Matt Booty, has internally, quote, assured 343 staff that even as they work with outside partners and outsourcing houses, they will remain in charge. Obviously, the question is, what are they going to remain in charge of? That's where things get bizarre, and I think maybe a little bit hopeful, but it's going to take some time. So my understanding is, in charge of leading the franchise and continuing development of Halo Infinite multiplayer but seemingly that everything else is a bit gone and maybe done by other people. So here's the deal. And I mean, come on, how many times have we heard this before? An internally developed engine has ended up being a massive thorn in the side of the people making the game. That's what's basically happened with Slipspace. Now, you'll remember Slipspace. It had its glitzy demo in 2018 that was very much positioning it as, you know, this is the grounding of the future of Halo. We're going to build it all upon this amazing platform. And then obviously Slipspace, we get to see gameplay in Slipspace, and it looks pretty damn bad, right? Remember the infamous E3 trailer? And I think that E3 trailer, it showed a lot. That they couldn't get things polished up for that reveal, I think shows that they didn't have the tools, they didn't have the capabilities, and that very much does seem to be the case. Apparently, it became an increasingly problematic thing for the studio, and per his sources, it's actually still impacting development of the game. Specifically, Extraction and Assault, which are both popular in past Halo games, they've yet to be released, in part because of issues involving the engine. Yeah, so that's essentially one of the major issues. I mean, for a long time, Destiny issues were blamed on internal engine that was a big pain in the ass to develop with. Even things with some of the newer Battlefield games, with BioWare being forced into using the Frostbite engine for Dragon Age 4, for Mass Effect Andromeda, they did not have the tools. And when I look at this, I just see a situation of like, oh my god, you're developing your engine from scratch, I suppose, while you were developing the game. Now, the problem is, like Halo Infinite, we know that's a game that was quite radically rescoped through its development process. That means that for the software engineers working on that engine, their requirements will have been shifting and changing. So the engine that they initially set out to build may not have fully reflected the evolving design of the game, meaning that the engine has got to be changed, and that the sort of best code practices, etc., cannot be done. Maybe those developers don't have time to make front-end tools that actually make using the engine nice for the staff. That is a massive benefit of, say, the Unreal Engine, right? Unity as well. Apparently, what's going to happen is a change in engine, but not for Halo Infinite. Obviously, Infinite is, it's built. I mean, come on, even look at Forge. It's absolutely incredible. There'd be no sense in changing Infinite. They do just have to knock through those issues and get the game going. But the overall thing, and I suppose this is where we get to talk about what Matt Booty said about the management of Halo, that they are switching to Unreal. Again, Cyberpunk? Remember that? Remember the whole thing with CD Projekt Red, right? Red Engine, evidently, I'm sure Red Engine was incredible at doing what it did, but things grow and expand, and then what looked like a good for-purpose engine, I think ends up looking a little bit like a sort of a shanty town, right? Of just ramshackle things being built here and there and everywhere. That's just what it ends up being like in software engineering. And of course, it often has to be, because it takes time to do things perfectly and right. And maybe that's one of the problems we've had with 343 and the content cadence for Halo Infinite. Maybe that explains why things have been so slow. A situation where the developers don't actually have the tools that they need to make the modes, to make the features, to make the maps efficiently, to playtest those things efficiently. And they end up maybe having to wait. Having to wait on features to be shipped by core programming, who of course are dealing with this revolving door 18-month contractor thing. I mean, can you see, how this would be an utter nightmare, right, for development? So a switch to Unreal, I think, for the same reason that so many other studios are doing it. Look at EA being a bit more okay with, say, Respawn. Of course, they were working in Source, also working in Unreal for the Jedi games. So what we've got here is basically late last year, when Bonnie Ross and engine lead David Berger departed, and then Pierre Hintz, I think, when he took over, that's when the firm decided to pivot. So I think you end up in one of these situations then where you've got Bonnie Ross and her leadership team. They probably have a fairly firm vision for the Slipspace engine. And when you think about that, there's a lot of benefits to your own internal engine, right? I mean, licensing fees, that's certainly something. You do save some money there. You can also make things custom just the way that you want. You can make the Halo movement feel just like Halo movement. And yes, you can't do that in other engines, but there's obviously benefits to an in-house engine. But it does seem that with the shifting of the management team, the new management was okay with changing engines. Maybe that tells us that the old management were still stuck in a past vision that they had for Halo, but perhaps were not able to update themselves to how things were actually going. And that leads us to Tatanka. So this is a interesting one because we've known about it for a while. We've all heard about the Battle Royale from Certain Affinity. Now, Certain Affinity are long-time Halo collaborators. They've been doing support in Halo for a long, long time, and apparently they have been making this game. It was a Battle Royale, though per Schreier's sources, it might actually develop away from that genre, and it's being done by a 100-person development team. And we'd already heard reports from the likes of Jez Corden in late 2022 that that actually was switching to Unreal. People did find that kind of hard to believe, but it is what it is, and now it makes a hell of a lot more sense. But I'll tell you what is interesting. That certainly does imply like you've got two Halo games running in two different engines. It's a pretty bad look, and I'm sure that there are going to be compatibility issues there, right? Maybe if you're going to be taking assets from, that were designed to be used in one engine over to the other, maybe you've got to do some work. Maybe the pipeline is slightly different. So I'm sure that those things will be pains in the ass, but once it's done, I think we can all imagine that Unreal's going to be the play. Now, there have been internal skeptics who are worried that a switch may have a negative impact on the way that Halo games actually feel to play. I can certainly understand that, but again, it depends on how you're using an engine, right? Like a lot of people can tell, if, this is Unity physics. And certainly developers will often be able to tell that. But you can use Unity, but do your own physics, right? Like, yeah, it'll be a pain in the ass. It'll be a lot of work, but you can do that. I wouldn't really see what's stopping them there. And of course, another fantastic benefit is, well, if you're getting a new contractor on or you're hiring people, do you think they've used Slipspace before? No. Let's say somehow you're able to poach a bunch of Fortnite developers. They'll be used to using Unreal. Maybe some people from Striking Distance Studios, the Callisto Protocol people. Well, they'll be staff who are experienced in UE5. Right, as time goes on, there's more. So many people, especially in AAA, are used to Unreal. Actually, a friend of mine, Chris, who runs Notorious Studios, they just released some gameplay screenshots of their game, Project Honor. And man, you can see there, doesn't look like a photoreal Unreal game, but you can see the powers of Unreal Engine because that's not concept art, that's actually a gameplay screenshot. Or at the very least, an in-engine screenshot. So, interesting, right? And I think if you're using more industry standard off-the-shelf stuff, then you're going to be a little bit less anti-fragile as a team, right? Because you're going to be able to tap in to people's experience that they've already gained and get them up to speed a bit more quickly. Now, what does this mean for Halo Infinite, though? Because it's all fine to know that there's another multiplayer Halo game coming with a different engine, developed, or at least led by a different team. But what about Infinite? Well, so, depends on what bit of Infinite. If you're okay with Infinite multiplayer, yeah, you're probably going to be getting more stuff. Campaign, though? Story? Co-op stuff? Nah, it really doesn't look like that's going to be happening. So they actually did not have major further story stuff planned, right? This is seemingly in anticipation of a big engine change. Developers, here's from the reporting, developers were making prototypes in the Unreal Engine and pitching ideas for new Halo games rather than working on new missions for Halo Infinite. Again, that's that sort of thing. I think they realized, okay, we screwed the pooch. This just needs to be the, multiplayer shooter arena free-to-play game, and we need to work in the future. There was this 10-year direction, but I think this really does show that 10-year direction was public positioning, right? That was meant to get fans, feeling confident that Halo would be in a strong grounding. But evidently, Microsoft's left hand wasn't talking to its right, and we end up in this situation where it all goes south. Even though they delay by a year, but you pull that trigger once and it has to be good after that. So not only have people been let down, but they were let down, shown hope, and then had that shattered. And when I think about, why we get not zero, literally, I'm kind of playing that up, but why we would struggle to get views in Halo content, it's because people's hope was let down in a way that will shatter their confidence and then just lead to apathy and make them go elsewhere. Which, of course, for many of us who are longtime fans of this franchise, for whom this franchise was, integral to childhood gaming growing up, that is really sad. Now, as for these developers who are making Unreal Engine prototypes, well, most of them were laid off, so that's kind of rough. They're making these prototypes, but the Unreal Engine-based future of Halo, probably not going to involve those staff then. As for what's next, Halo's going to stay. Microsoft have continually talked about it being important, but what they've had to do is have to strip their grand plan back, they've had to rethink things, they've had to rethink their technology, and I suppose actually solve the fundamental problems. Because sometimes, right, you cannot solve the problem by effort. Sometimes it's, if you're swimming against the tide, or, like against the current, why are you doing that? Especially if that current being bad is completely self-inflicted by top-level management at the studio. Like, that is completely dysfunctional. And no matter how many bodies you throw at that problem, you're not going to fundamentally fix it. What you need to do is actually just be brave enough to take the L and do it right. And it seems to me like they are now willing to take the L and to do it right by reorganizing 343, working out their outsourcing and their support studios, and changing their tech stack. It seems like that's the thing that they needed to do. The problem, though, Halo's already withered in the vine. Soon it's just going to be dead. It's going to fall off the vine and turn into soil. No one's going to think about it again. Maybe it'll be fossilized. Who knows? And that's the sad thing. That's why they need to keep this seasonal content going. And from some of the reports that we were hearing, you kind of had the situation where the part of 343 that was running well was actually multiplayer in terms of like making the content, making Forge mode. As we can see, they still were fighting issues with the engine. It seems like that part of 343 is pretty much grand. And here's from Pierre. This is an email to staff following the layoffs. He wrote, "The current plan for 343 is to support a robust live offering for Halo Infinite and Forge, and greenlighting our new tech stack for future Halo games while also bringing Halo to more players, more platforms than ever." So basically, Infinite is, supposed to be the platform for the next 10 years of Halo. It has ended up being one of the most expensive and disastrous stepping stones to the real platform, which is going to be Unreal Engine. And I think that there's a lot of promise in that. There are so many benefits in that. If they can get Halo feeling right, I think we can all see that, yeah, Unreal is obviously going to be the right choice. Till then, they need to do a goddamn remarkable job at Halo Infinite, right? They need to get those 4 seasons per year with a lot of content and to cultivate that player base. If we do end up having some sort of Battle Royale-like game, that's going to be a challenge because the BR space, you can't just do a BR and just, oh, there, it'll be fine. You can't just drop, even if you drop, say, Battlefield Firestorm as free-to-play. Well, you can't leave it. You're going to need maybe a new map every year. You're going to need a robust set of rewards for people to get. You're going to need a hell of a lot, right? When you end up in a situation where like so much of your game is chasing extrinsic rewards, like you need a lot of people making skins. You need a lot of cosmetics. You need a lot of emotes. And even a challenge for them is if they're doing that Tatanka game in another engine, how much interoperability for the slipspace pipeline stuff will they have? So I suppose that next game is that's their shot. That's their shot at keeping it alive. Yeah, kind of sad. Let me know what you think, though. It's for me, it's one of those bittersweet things. If Infinite fundamentally is a direction that was barking up the wrong tree, then it's good that they're no longer doing that. Till then, though, we're going to be playing other things. And that is the price of Microsoft's mismanagement of this intellectual property. We are going to be playing other things. We will form habits in other games. People who maybe loved Halo, maybe they're playing Apex now. And maybe whenever the Halo Battle Royale, or maybe it's a Halo extraction-based game, because that's what everyone does these days, maybe they'll just be playing something else. They won't get their hooks in them. Because at the end of the day, there's only so many live services people can keep up with. there's only so many battle passes designed for daily chores that people can do. Overall, all these big companies are doing these, I don't think that they are win-win. I don't think that it's a positive sum game. I mean, it's a positive sum game assuming that the broad industry and the amount of players grows, yes. But if we're all just building battle royales and these types of live services and just firing them all into the pit, competing for player hours, to me it does seem like not a zero-sum game, but certainly not a positive sum game, right? And I suppose that's why the battle royale graveyard's pretty chunky. Let me know what you think. That's it for today. Of course, if you would like to check out the game that we are developing, then it'll be out on the 24th of February. Narrative survival role-playing game, Antarctic-inspired setting. It's funny, like we started development like a good bit before the TV show The Terror came out, and certainly the Franklin Expedition had been one of our sources. I'd say we're a bit more close to Shackleton though. But hey, if that kind of thing is up your alley, and you want characters who are like, I don't mean real people as in real historical people, but I mean I think characters where I think the team's done a marvelous job of having characters actually feel like full humans. Check it out. All right, wish list, check out the trailer, links down below. Anyway, that's it from me. Have a great day. See you next time.